Hallelujah.
Are you ready?
Yes, Father in heaven, we are here right now in the memorial site of the victims of this terrible shooting in Parkland, Florida. And we are heartbroken about these 17 lives, for the most part very young lives, that have been taken away and snatched in the midst of aspirations and dreams and hopes. Many among them are Jewish, others are maybe Christians, others not. But they are all human beings that had dreams, had aspirations, had hopes. And now they're dead. I have no word to tell you what one feels just being here and seeing the Stars of David over the memorials, the crosses over the memorials, seeing the people coming quietly and silently with their flowers, with the teddy bears, to lay them at the feet of the particular names that are represented here. What I'm going to say here today, I believe, is important because it's going to highlight the reason for which America has been suffering from so much violence in the schools. We need to realize that these things don't just happen. There are reasons why they happen. And we are going today to talk about the reasons. And because I am in the midst of a very painful place where many people are hurting, I am speaking because we need to bring sanity in the midst of the aftermath of what is going to transpire due to the shooting in Parkland, Florida. There's going to be a lot of voices that are going to arise in the aftermath of the shooting, trying to bring sanity in the way that they believe sanity needs to be brought. The issue is that it looks to me that they are going to be missing the point altogether. And I'm going to talk about the point, beloved ones, so brace yourself with patience. I'm here with a broken heart, just like all of America should be. As an Israeli and as an American minister, I can tell you that I know bereavement. I know mourning. I know what it is to lose people when they're young. And I know also what it means to have families that are bereaved. I come from Israel, and I'm also an American citizen. So I'm not coming from a place of I know better. I'm coming from a place of being connected with the Creator of heaven and earth through the blood of the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus. Yeshua, the Messiah of Israel. I've been praying about this. I come from a place of prayer. And from a place of prayer, I begin to investigate some things. And one of the things that I've investigated is, when did these shootings and massacres in the schools and the terrible violence that we've witnessed so much in the last few years, when did it really start? As I went to Google about school shootings, the timing led me to 1963 and 1962, but actually really 1963 and on, starting with gusto, but a demonic gusto in 1966, with more and more violence escalating year after year to date, even this year that is just begun. I think that there's been about 7 or 8 of those deadly shootings in different schools in America. Of course, the Parkland, Florida has been one of the most deadly ones in all of the history of the United States of America. We are sitting at the gate of Florida, St. Augustine, about nearly 5 hours away from here. But as gatekeepers of Florida, we have a responsibility to be here today. So I'm going to take you historically to 1963 and to 1962, because you know very well that if you read any of my books that I like to research roots of problems. Most people somehow like to put band-aids on problems and band-aids of cancers. But band-aids never help the cancers, never help the problems. They may deter them for a little while, or they may give a feeling of false peace. But the truth is that until we come to the roots of why things happen, we are not going to be able to have the answers. And I therefore have researched the roots of why the school violence, why is it happening. And the roots take me all the way to 1962, when a law was passed in the United States of America following the lawsuit of a woman champion of atheism by the name of Madeleine Murray O'Hair. And she fought a court case that was won in the Supreme Court that eventually led to the banning and the forbidding of both prayer and Bible in the schools of America. From 1962, God, the God of the universe, the God of Israel, the creator of heaven and earth, was banished out of the schools of America. He was rejected out, he was cast out, he was expelled from school. From that moment, it was forbidden to pray, forbidden to read the Bible out loud, and the normal practices that happened until 1962 that included prayer, that included the reading of the Word of God, that included the honoring of the Ten Commandments, all those went out of the schools. And I'm going to tell you something, beloved ones. If you light up a light in any place and then you snuff it out, the place will become dark. It's enough to go to any dark place. The moment that the light goes out, the only thing that settles in is darkness. And that's exactly what happened in the schools of America. The light of the word of Adonai was taken out of the schools. In Psalms 119 it says, "Your word is a light unto my feet. It is a lamp unto my path." The moment that the word was taken out, the light unto our feet and to the feet of our children, the lamp unto our path and to the path of our children and all of our generations, was taken out of the schools altogether. Atheism won the Supreme Court case. But atheism also has caused the destruction of all of our generations since 1962. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, the fruit of this campaign of Miss O'Hair ended up in both her son John, and her granddaughter being kidnapped and murdered. They became the first victims of the own laws that she fought to pass when she decided to take God out of the schools, saying that that was freedom, the freedom to be a godless society. We need to realize that yes, we as human beings have the freedom to become godless. We all have the freedom to choose to become godless. But that freedom will always lead us into some consequences, and the consequences is always death. The Word of God tells us that the wages of sin is death. Here lie the bodies of 17 children that did not know any better because they could not pray at school. Not only that, their teachers could not pray at school. There was a time when in America teachers could pray at school. And they could not pray at school. They could not trust the Word of God. And as I'm speaking here today, I want to read to you some very, very enlightening scriptures that tells us clearly of what can happen when God comes out of the school. And again, I am not coming from a place of I'm not coming from a place of condemnation or judgment. I'm coming from a place of wisdom and mercy, because we need to do the right thing to prevent it from happening again. The Word of God says in Psalms 11, it says, if the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? The foundation of prayer and the foundation of the Word was destroyed. And then we have in numerous other places It says the fool says in his heart that there is no God. And it says that actually that foolishness can lead to injustice and can lead to untold abominations. And therefore violence can run rampant and people can become depressed, because when God is taken out of the schools, the light is out, darkness is in, depression is in, mental problems are in, bitterness is in, and the bitterness will lead to the hatred, and the hatred will lead to the violence. Nicholas Cruz was also a victim of the same godless system. He premeditatedly killed 17 of the students, and he would have killed 170 if he could have. If the teachers would have had guns and the guards would have had weapons, they could have stopped him. But they did not have guns and they did not have weapons to stop the one that came to kill the students. You see, many people say, well, what we need is more gun control. Before 1962, people had guns much more even than they have today. In fact, nearly in every household there was a manhunter, somebody that was hunting and had hunting guns. But when you Google what are the school shootings before 1962 and the law that was passed against prayer and God in the Bible, in the high schools and in the schools, when you go to Google, you will find out that before 1962 there were no shootings. You cannot even find them. Why? Even though there were guns, but there were no shootings in the schools? Maybe there were some, but not this way. In fact, I couldn't find any when I Googled. Again, I am not going to be categoric because I haven't researched this enough to know, but I can tell you that until 1962, you Google and no shootings show up. And from 1962, more than 50 deadly attacks of shooting in the schools of America. More than 50. I failed to count them all because there were so many of them. This year alone, about 7 or 8. So what's the difference? If the difference is not the guns that were existing until 1962, when most families had hunters in them and they had guns and it was normal to have them, then the difference, beloved one, is only one. From 1962, prayer and the Word of God was taken out of the schools. Children are not allowed to believe in God in the schools anymore, or to voice their faith openly in their schools anymore. The teachers are not praying anymore. The Word of God is not being read anymore, and therefore a vacuum of darkness has come in and has caused our schools to become a place of darkness rather than light, because it doesn't matter how much we study, if God is not in the midst of those studies, we are in darkness. My prayer today from this very painful place, where my heart, both as a minister, as a human being, as a mother, is broken for these ones. And as much as I would like to raise them all from the dead right now, from exactly where they are many Jews among them. And there are many non-Jews among them. This is the common fate of both the Jewish ones and the non-Jewish ones. They have all suffered from the same thing, godlessness in the schools, darkness in the schools. But if we bring prayer back, and we bring Adonai, God, Yahweh, back into the schools, if we bring the word of Adonai back into the schools, and we bring the light back into the schools, we are going to have light in the schools, and this violence will stop, because that is what the word of God promises. Creation starts in Genesis chapter 2 with these words, let there be light. The first words of the Creator is light be, let there be light. And we say here today, again in this place, let there be light in our schools. Let there be prayer, and let there be the word of God in Yeshua's mighty name. And let us fight for this to happen. Thank you, Lord. We give you thanks. disappeared. All my scriptures that I had prepared all disappeared.
But you said it.
Why did they remove us from there?
The police said you have to be across the street if you're speaking. Did you say the police?
Well, because some people probably passed by and heard us talk about God. That's why.